Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Food School Smarter, Stronger, Leaner podcast. And welcome back to the episode number 3 of our series Athletic Edge, dedicated to nutrients that are very important for you as an athlete or as an active person. It's not like they're not important for the rest of the population, but they're especially important for athletes who are trying to perform well in the arena of fitness and working out, and maybe, even working on some competitions or some specific results, but also want to succeed in life and not totally exhaust themselves while working out. And by the way, guys, as an athlete, you will require more nutrition. You will require more nutrients, because being athletic means not just all these amazing health benefits from regular exercise, but also it means need for more recovery, need for more nutrients, because it is more load on your body to be physically active. It's kind of like, one of those things that if you don't get any, then you can get sick. There are going to be health consequences. If you get too much, it's also going to have some consequences, negative consequences. We got to be in that right sweet spot in the middle. I mean, those of us who are interested in maximizing health, energy, and vitality. But also that sweet spot, it gives a lot. It gives, more vitality, more energy, more health. But it also takes. So more nutrients, more recovery is required. So always think about that. It's not enough to just exercise. It's also as equally enough to provide the recovery and the nutrients. So we talked about zinc and how it's important, especially for protein synthesis, for recovery, for muscles, but also for so many other things like immune health, energy creation, thyroid function. We also talked about iron and how that is important just for one reason, but not many others. It's to deliver oxygen to all of our cells and tissues, to create energy, and to breathe, to live, right? So without iron, all this fresh air that you might be inhaling while exercising outdoors is going to be wasted, because our body is not going to be able to deliver it to our cells for all these processes that our body need oxygen for, right? We can survive without food for sometimes months. We can survive without water for several days. We can survive without oxygen for few minutes. If we're lucky. So oxygen is very important, and so is iron. Today we are continuing our athletic conversation, and today we are talking about calcium and vitamin D. We are talking about these nutrients together because they are very connected, and one cannot function without the other, and so you need to be getting both of them in order for them to function. And in order for our body to function properly, and in order for your athletic performance to get better and not decline. So calcium does a lot of things in our body. We need about 1 gram, 1.5 grams in our body. Athletes obviously will need more, but we people need about that. And so it's quite a big amount. Anything that is in grams in our body, it is very important for a lot of processes in our body. Besides, being a part of our bones and our healthy teeth, calcium is also highly involved in muscle contractions and nerve impulses. As an athlete, guys, everything depends on how well your muscles are able to contract and how well your nerve cells are able to communicate. Because even for muscles to contract, your nerve cells gotta give the signal to those muscle tissues to contract. And so as an athlete, you are as effective as your nervous system and your other physical systems effectively work together. Like if something is not firing muscles or neurons, then something is not going to be happening while you are trying to exercise. So calcium, of course, again, it is involved in bone growth and increasing bone mass. That is also important for you as an athlete, especially if you are interested in long-term performance, not to fracture or injure your bones. Poor calcium intake can lead to bone-related issues and different fractures. Why else? Why else calcium? Let me check out another resource for you. I've been doing more reading on calcium. So a few things. Energy-yielding metabolism. Calcium is vital to ensure the generation of energy in cells. It yields energy and makes you feel more energetic, guys. So energy for exercise, calcium is involved in that too. Digestive enzymes, another area that I'd like you to kind of think about and realize why calcium is also important. Calcium plays a role in digestion of food because it is a component of enzymes that help our body to break down fats and proteins. So guys, if you're eating proteins but you don't have enough enzymes to break them down because you don't have enough calcium, so you're not going to be getting any protein for your muscles or for your recovery or for any other processes. That's why also calcium is important. Muscles. So less known is the important role of calcium that it plays in stimulating stem cells, those cells that can become any cells in our body, in any tissue, to become specialized muscle cells during the normal development of skeletal muscle. In addition, calcium is also vital to ensure that cardiac muscle or our heart muscle works well to maintain a regular healthy heartbeat in response to exercise, effectively changing oxygen levels in demand to exercise. Again, guys, so not just iron is important for oxygen metabolism, but also calcium. Blood pressure. High blood pressure has been identified as a major health issue, and adequate amounts of calcium reduce blood pressure. One of the most interesting features of calcium is the ability to influence the way in which brain cells communicate with each other, since this also has potential implications for the development of different neurological disorders. But again, as an athlete, guys, you need your muscles to be functioning and contracting, but also your nerve cells to fire as effectively as they possibly can. So calcium needs all of that: energy creations, breakdown of your protein, proper functioning of your cardio muscle, proper delivery and metabolism of oxygen, blood pressure, normal blood pressure and heartbeat, besides the bones, and the teeth, and maintenance the health of those that are important for all aspects of our health. Besides that, calcium is needed for all of these functions that are directly related to your athletic performance. So what are some great sources of calcium? Sardines, one of my favorite foods ever for so many reasons. Convenience, omega-3s, great source of protein, great source of different minerals, but also sardines, specifically I'm talking about canned with bones and skin. Sardines, quite a good source of calcium. It will deliver about 60% of your calcium per one can, about 3 ounces can. So that will deliver about 60%, 55-60% of your calcium. And calcium, guys, is in the bones. So if your sardines are without bones, there is no calcium or close to none. So just remember that. Also, any canned seafood, like for example, canned salmon that you can also find very often with bones, will also deliver a good amount of calcium. So canned salmon will deliver about, let me actually look at it, 27 to 30% depending on the can and the amounts of bones. So salmon will deliver 27% for about 3.5 ounces. Now, tofu. There is a kind of tofu, fermented soybeans, that is made with this substance that is called calcium sulfate. And so that kind of tofu will be a great source of calcium. Just a couple of ounces, 60 grams of it will give you about 70% of your calcium. But it's not every tofu. Again, it's the only one that is made with calcium sulfide. And there is calcium sulfide is in the ingredient list. So if you buy tofu, if you're someone who is eating tofu, then just check out the ingredient list for calcium sulfate, and that one will deliver per 2 ounces, 60 grams, 70% of your calcium. Let's get to milk. The highest in calcium milk per glass, natural milk, would have like sheep milk. That's the highest milk in calcium. So that will give you a glass of it about 40% of your calcium requirements. Then cow's milk gonna give you about 30%. So sheep is about 40, cows is about 30, and then goat is about 25. So that is the least rich in calcium. So sheep milk is the best source of calcium. Then when it comes to yogurt, regular yogurt will give you per cup 150 milliliters or grams or 5 ounces, will give you about 30% of your calcium requirement. Greek yogurt will give you a little bit less because it's thick, and actually some of the liquid that is removed in Greek yogurt does contain calcium. So Greek yogurt will be about 90-20% per regular cup of 5 ounces or 150 milliliters. So plain yogurt made from cow's milk, regular yogurt, would have about 30%. And then cheeses are great sources, especially the hard ones, the aged ones like Parmigiano Reggiano or similar ones, all natural, of course, or Pecorino Romano. So those ones per 1.5 ounces or 40 grams, just 40 grams will deliver about 40% of your calcium requirement. So if you do eat cheese, look into hard cheeses, again, like Parmigiano Reggiano, Pecorino Romano. So 40 grams of which is about 40% of your calcium. Swiss cheese, natural Swiss cheese, is about 40% also. And then softer cheeses and whiter cheeses, they would have less, closer to like natural yogurt, about 30-35%. So the harder, the more aged, the more yellow naturally cheese is, usually the more calcium it has. And that's about it, guys. So the highest in calcium, for those of you who do not eat animal products, tofu would probably, that one that is made with calcium sulfide, would be one of the best sources, unless you consume some fortified foods. But fortified foods are not always the best source. That's why, tofu also might not be the best source, because that calcium is added, is not naturally present in soybeans. For those of you who eat seafood, canned seafood with bones, like sardines especially, great source, about 50-40% per can. Salmon, sardines, plus all the omega-3s, etc. When it comes to milk, if you are someone who's consuming dairy product, sheep milk will deliver about 40%, cows about 30%, and then goat about 25% per glass. And then yogurt, natural yogurt, not Greek one, would have about 30% per 150 milliliter cup. That is kind of like a portion, average portion that you will find your yogurt in. A Greek yogurt would have like 10% less. And then cheeses, for 1.5 ounces of 40 grams, Pecorino Romano, Parmigiano Reggiano would deliver about 40%, Swiss cheese about the same too. And then cheeses like halloumi, other whiter and younger cheeses would deliver about 30%, kind of like similar to yogurt. That is calcium. Again, guys, muscle contracting, heartbeat, blood pressure, nerve impulses, the digestion and breakdown of protein, metabolism of oxygen. Calcium is important for all of that. But calcium, guys, does not do its job alone. Vitamin D is its beloved companion. Vitamin D contributes not just to our immune system and also is important for so many other functions that we are still learning about. Vitamin D kind of like activates calcium. So all the functions that are performed by calcium, you need vitamin D to be present for most of them. Vitamin D is essential for the growth of maintenance of bones, muscles, and teeth. And it also enhances your immune system, and so you get less infections. It also is proven to affect cancer rates in an individual. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, means it's best to consume it with some form of fat. There are two forms of vitamin D, guys. So one is plant that you can only find in mushrooms that were treated with ultraviolet. And so there are some mushrooms where you can see there is a label that they were treated with vitamin D. It's a certain kind of vitamin D, D2, but our body can convert it when it's healthy into vitamin D3 that we actually need. So if you're a vegan, vegetarian, that might be a thing to look into. Mushrooms that are treated with UVB. But we need a vitamin D3. Also, of course, vitamin D, well, let's talk about function first. Vitamin D ensures good bone health, but also regulation of calcium and phosphorus, contributes to normal levels of calcium in our blood. Vitamin D important to maintain health of skeletal muscles. What else? It helps our immune system to reduce severity and longevity of infectious diseases, meaning, especially COVID-19 times, vitamin D. It's actually, there were quite a few studies showing that the more a person deficient in vitamin D, the more severe cases of COVID-19 are usually observed. So I highly recommend you to focus on vitamin D. In my family, we do focus on that. And I specifically buy cod liver for everyone to eat once a week, because the amount that is in the can is enough to provide enough vitamin D for the whole week. And it's fat soluble and can be stored in the body for months. So when you eat more, your body will store it, and you can eat it once a week, for example, the amount that you need for the whole week or more, and your body will store the rest and use as needed. What else? If you do not get enough, you can suffer from bone pain, fragile bones, and skeletal abnormalities. In addition, dental problems may also be observed when you're not getting enough vitamin D. Also, your muscles can feel fatigued and weak, and it can also reduce muscle mass, guys, even with all the zinc and protein, and create more muscle pain on a regular basis. And yeah, guys, so metabolism of calcium, immune system, muscle maintenance, growth, healthy skeletal muscle, all that vitamin D has to do with. So vitamin D is important for you as an athlete. Again, calcium is not activated if you're not getting sufficient amount of vitamin D. So where are we getting this vitamin D? Because statistically, just like with iron and zinc, a lot of people, like majority of people, are deficient in our modern world because nobody is getting in the sun anymore for a sufficient amount of time, or people put a lot of sunscreen that does not allow body to produce vitamin D under the sun, guys. And the more SPF, or that protective factor, the less vitamin D your body can produce, because the less ultraviolet can get through that defense, quote unquote. So if you are using some sun filter cream, then sun protecting cream, then you're not getting your vitamin D plus. A lot of people spend most time indoors, even in the summer when the body can make that vitamin D. Unless you're living in the equatorial region somewhere in the world, you can usually produce vitamin D from somewhere around March to April to somewhere around September and October. The closer to the north or to the to the north you are, the less months are available for your body to produce vitamin D. So on average, guys, if you are somewhere like near New York, or near New York, would be from March to about October for 10 minutes 3 times a week. That will from 11 a.m. specifically to 3 p.m. midday. So 3 times a week for lighter skin. Darker skin requires more time in the sun. So for lighter skin, 3 times a week, 10 minutes from 11 to 3 p.m., somewhere around New York or in that area on the map, you will make enough vitamin D on a sunny day to last you through the summer and through the rest of the year. Athletes might need more, so maybe not 10, but maybe 15 to 20 minutes, 3 times a week. And then if you're somewhere in Northern Europe or, in that region with a similar weather, then you're going to be making enough vitamin D from April to probably September. And the same 10 minutes 3 times a week. But again, if your skin is lighter, you're gonna make more. If it's darker, you need more time in the sun. So that's what it comes to sun exposure. But now let's get back to foods, because I don't know about you, but I'm not getting enough sun on a regular basis. Not in the summer, not ever. I'm either not by the equator most of the time, or I'm just not getting out that often because it's raining, or it's cloudy, or I have something to do in the afternoon, right? So many reasons. And so I'm trying to eat my vitamin D in foods. One of the best food sources, it's really effective and efficient, cod liver. It usually comes in a can. You can usually get it in some gourmet stores. In most places, like in Russia, it is sold everywhere, because probably people at some point figured out that it's a great source of vitamin D. And in Russia, we don't get enough sun, so we'd better be eating cod liver. So it's almost everywhere. In other countries, it's more like specialty stores. But let's get back to cod liver. So just about 30 grams of cod liver will deliver 200% of vitamin D in the best absorbable form, plus vitamin A, even more, vitamin B12, sufficient amounts, and then iodine, and whooping almost 700% in 30 grams of your omega-3 requirements. So that's a lot, guys. That's why I love cod liver. You might be familiar with cod liver oil supplement, but because of high omega-3 content, it is really unstable, and it's best to eat your cod liver because in the tissue of an animal flesh, those omega-3s are much more stable and not oxidized that easily, whereas they squeeze it out and make it into a supplement and put it onto a shelf and store it for God knows how long. That's where that oil is prone to oxidation and probably gonna go rancid and bad by the time you're gonna get it. So cod liver is better. Food is better when it comes to omega-3s, but also vitamin D. So cod liver. Then cod raw is another food that I absolutely love. Cod stores a lot of that vitamin D and omega-3 fatty acids fat in organs like liver, and also raw or cod caviar, I guess. 100 grams of that will deliver 100% of your vitamin D. It's also absolutely delicious. Depends on the brand, but good quality ones, absolutely delicious. And let's get back to other sources of vitamin D, most of which are fish related, fatty fish. So guys, if you do not like fish, maybe you should start loving your fish. Let's start with other super rich sources. So mackerel is the highest when it comes to mackerel fillet in vitamin D. So 150 grams of 5 ounces is about 250% of your vitamin D. A little bit less in eel, 233 for the same amount, 150 grams of 5 ounces. And a little bit less in tinned salmon or canned salmon, 210% for 3 ounces. So it's probably about the same as eel if you would eat the same 5 ounces or 150 grams. For some reason, wild salmon, flesh of wild salmon would cover about 86%. So guys, wild salmon is about 86%, 150 grams, whereas tinned salmon is about 210% per average can. So mackerel, eel, and tinned salmon. But those are not the only ones that have quite good amount of vitamin D. Herring fillet, for example, 150 grams, 5 ounces, 190%. And then carp also would have about 190%. What else do we have? Sardines, anchovies in cans or in any form for 150 grams would deliver about 20-25%, less for anchovies, more for sardines. And 1 egg yolk would deliver about 18% of your vitamin D requirements, guys. So egg yolks, you eat 4 of them and you're at 70% of your vitamin D requirements. Egg white does not have any, guys. So again, better try egg yolk omelets, not egg white omelets. So fatty fish, and that's about it. Or the organs of fatty fish like cod liver or cod raw, and UVB treated mushrooms. But again, the vitamin D again is different in plants than in animals, and our body would have to convert that. And sun, of course, always the best source. Get to the sun if you can. So calcium, vitamin D, they work together. Again, calcium is needed to make sure that your muscles contract and your neurons are firing to make you go faster and stronger, making you leaner. Then also the metabolism of oxygen that is needed to create energy, the breakdown of proteins that are needed to create muscles and needed to create a lot of enzymes and for you to recover. All of that calcium is needed for, plus heartbeat and normal blood pressure. So calcium is needed for all of that. And to prevent neurological disorders, there are many of those, many more every day it seems. And then calcium cannot really work effectively without vitamin D. That is also important for our immune system and for so many other processes and hormone creation and immune system, calcium, and all the processes that calcium is needed for. So vitamin D, that's why it's especially important for athletes too. And as we mentioned, vitamin D, sun, cod liver, cod raw, and a lot of fish like mackerel, eel, anchovies, sardines, herring, salmon, carp, even egg yolks would have some. So guys, look at this list, re-listen to this episode, think about all these foods and make sure that you are eating some. Again, synthetical supplements are not always, in most cases not, that well absorbed by our body, metabolized, and also it is hard to manage the portion, and sometimes it can be too much or it can be too little or at the wrong times, and you might be missing when taking in isolation calcium other nutrients that calcium needs to be absorbed, because we are still learning, we still don't know how exactly our body works with all these nutrients. That's why supplements are not ideal. So make sure to include some sorts of some form of calcium, maybe, again, canned seafood that is also rich in vitamin D, maybe some dairy if you do eat dairy, but that's about it, or calcium sulfate tofu also has some. Re-listen, figure out whether you are getting calcium. Or guys, I completely forgot, like I'm drinking about 30-40% of my calcium from natural mineral water that I'm buying. I'm buying a particular kind here in Russia that is rich in calcium. Also, while in Switzerland, I was buying another brand of calcium-rich waters. Actually, a lot of natural mineral waters, Swiss mineral waters are super high in calcium. Those mountains and mineral waters that come from them, they are quite high in calcium. And all the Swiss cheese that they make is also quite high in calcium. No wonder those Swiss people are so healthy, eating all the calcium and red meat with all the zinc and iron and all the oxygen in the mountains. No wonder why food also tastes that amazing over there. So anyhow, guys, mineral waters can be a great source of calcium, but different mineral waters would have different amount of minerals, different kinds of minerals. So check, because the ingredients, maybe in your region there is also special waters rich in calcium. So that's also an amazing source, really highly absorbable calcium. So check out those mineral waters. And don't forget to share this episode with one other person, guys, because together we'll learn better, we practice better, we remember better. When we teach it to someone, when we discuss it with someone, we learn, remember better, and then we start practicing. If you are a member of a family unit, then share it with members of your family, not just with your, spouse, your maybe better half. Maybe share it with your parents if you're a teenager, or share it with your kids so they also understand the importance of eating certain foods to support body function. That knowledge will serve them their whole life, or it will serve the rest of the life to your parents. So make sure to share this with people you love and value. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And as usual, guys, till next time, eat better daily.